Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Retirement Compass, the show that helps you successfully navigate to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio are two financial advisors from Stonebridge Wealth Systems. We have the co-founder, Tim Kulhanek, and partner, Jeremy Gove. We've got an important show for you today. The title of this episode is Mission Possible, Retiring from the University and Small College System right here in Nebraska. So if this relates to you or someone that you love, you do not want to miss today's show. Tim, Jeremy, so good to be here with both of you. And I know we were talking before the show that, we often do shows that are more general financial planning, retirement planning knowledge. We've been doing a series of some different, more specific shows to address the different kinds of folks that are coming in and meeting with you. And you say that these shows often have way more impact for folks in terms of the influx of calls you get and people wanting help about these unique topics. So I'm excited to do this again.
I'm excited as well, and I did not miss that you were wearing the correct color for this show.
Well, I do try. Thank you. But no, this is going to be great. And Jeremy, I know that you work with a ton of folks that this relates to as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun doing specific shows because you can really dive into the weeds a little bit more than we can just, talking about these general topics. So it'll be good.
For sure.
I'm excited to do it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, again, if you are a current or former faculty or staff member employed by the University of Nebraska system or one of our small community college campuses, this episode is really geared towards you. The University of Nebraska system employed over 16,000 people. This was as of 2024. Directly across all the campuses. So we're talking about the flagship land-grant campus in Lincoln, UNO in Omaha, UNK in Kearney, and the University of Nebraska Medical Center. This covers a lot of folks. This supports over 52,000 jobs inside of this system, and there's a huge economic ripple effect as a result. Really, if you think about it statewide, that's 1 in every 17 Nebraskans who are employed by the system. And then you add in all the thousands more from the small and the community college campuses. And literally, this is why a lot of people you're meeting with, this concept touches.
Yes.
So, Tim, I know you said the right color, and we're going to start with the University of Nebraska, right? It's the largest employer in the state.
Yep.
So given that and the fact that you're right here in Lincoln, where the Cornhuskers reside, how often are you seeing folks come in and how prepared do you feel like they are for retirement if they've been a part of this system?
Yeah, the undisputed 1997 Cornhuskers national championship football team. The split wasn't real. We all know that Michigan was there. Anyway, just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Right.
Sorry, blue people, but I see them all the time. So SEC, another large employer, so Southeast Community College, they've got a campus in Lincoln, as well over in Milford. Jeremy, there's Central Community College out there. Like I said, UNK, IC Doane, Concordia Wesleyan, UNL, UNMC. In Omaha, there's Metro Community College that we see folks coming in from. And we work with like all different levels. So whether it was somebody who's faculty or staff member, maybe they worked in, like maintenance or grounds crew, landscaping.
When you think about all the jobs, there's so much.
It's like a city in and of itself, right?
Yes.
So you've got people that had to be sanitation. You've got people that were the instructors that we work with and, professors at different levels. And so, the thing that I would note is that for the most part, a lot of them, they're prepared from like a level of savings perspective. And you're going to see that on this show. Like there's a lot of different ways that they can save. In fact, they mandate participation, which kind of enhances preparation for retirement. So they really focus on ensuring that folks, when they leave their employment at the university, that you can't say that we didn't put you in a position to be successful when it comes to your savings.
Right. Well, and Jeremy, how about your team in Kearney? So, because at Stonebridge Wealth Systems, for viewers who don't know, you have multiple team members, you've got multiple office locations. So talk about what's happening from this perspective in your area.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing that Tim's talking about with the community college, with UNK. There's a lot of people that are coming in. The nice thing about the university system, they do a really good job of explaining how to save for retirement, and they have things that they have set up. So our opinion isn't that they necessarily need the mechanics of how do I save. It's more about how do I use my money. That's the challenge that I think most of the staff that we work with, from a janitor to administration, that they've saved, they've done a great job of saving, and now how do I use this money, right? And so that's really the challenge. How do I draw it out? How do I access this money? How do I turn that balance that I have in my retirement account into a European vacation? Or how do I turn that into other trips? Or how do I, support my family with that money?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so I know we really want to focus on the first two segments on the different plans that folks are eligible for and the different plan types and who is eligible. So what do viewers need to understand and know about the panoply, if you will, of plan options that the university system offers?
Yeah, a cornucopia of
there
plans.
There you go. I like that, yes.
So here's the thing, the reason we're doing a show on this is because it is very unique. Not everybody has access to these levels of plans. So there's a lot of campuses. We're going to focus on the University of Nebraska and University of Nebraska system, but a lot of this, there's going to be overlap between what I talk about today and if you're on like the Doane campus or SEC or Wesleyan or any of those small and community colleges. So the university has three main plans, and the first one is called the Section 401A plan. And I've got a slide that I can pull up that talks a little bit about that, but here's what you need to know. Mandatory, there's the word I was looking for earlier. Remember I said that they mandate participation to enhance preparation? If you're, depending on your age, they will force you in this plan. So if you're an employee that is 30 years old or older who has at least a 0.5 FTE, so full-time equivalent, you are mandated to participate. Now you can choose tier 1 or tier 2, and we'll talk about that in a moment. There's also voluntary participation if you're 26 to 29, and I'm talking about your age, 26 to 29. If you're 25 and you're like, I really want to save, too bad. You are not eligible for this plan. It's a unique type of plan. For the university. 401As are available, and mainly I see them in government, and nonprofit settings. But there's some nuance to that we'll talk about.
Okay. So you said not eligible. So does that mean they're unable to contribute towards their retirement at all, or how's that working?
That's a good question, right? Remember I said there's some nuance to that. That's where these 403B and 457 plans can really play a role for younger folks. If they have the resources and the means to be able to save in them. But also there's a way for folks that are maybe towards the end of their career that are at their peak earnings to really beef up and boost their savings as they head into retirement.
Okay, so before we move on to those plans, Jeremy, I'd love for you to explain the two different tiers that university employees can select from when they're hired and they qualify for this 401A. The
401A, yeah. So the tier 1, you're able to contribute 3.5%. The employer contributes 6.5%. So that's a total of 10% that's going into that account. And if you're a tier 2, if you choose tier 2, you can contribute 5.5%, so an additional 2%. The employer contributes 8%, so you're saving 13.5% in your retirement account inside the 401A. But here's the catch. If you can switch from tier 1 to tier 2, but once you decide to go tier 2, you can't ever go back. So you want to make sure that I can afford to put that money in, that additional 2%.
Right.
But the system is also contributing more as well, so they're matching more. So it's a good deal. You just want to make sure that that's what you want to do with your plan.
For sure. Okay, so that's the basic mandatory plan that has the age-based eligibility criteria.
Yep.
Before we take a break, do you want to share with our viewers how they can actually take action if they have questions regarding their situation, if these are things that they're trying to figure out and navigate?
Yeah, I'll tell you about a family that already did take action and what their experience was like. So I recently had a couple that came in, and she had been employed by the university for, I think it was around 29 years is what I wrote down. It was around 30 years, 3 decades. And we had about a 90-minute meeting, and I went over the various aspects of her plan, explained what optionality she had, flexibility, the different nuances between fidelity and TIAA, which we'll get into in the next couple of segments, and really just honed in on the fact that some of her money was available and liquid and accessible for her, and some of it maybe wasn't. And at the end of that meeting, they looked at me and they said, Tim, we've been in this plan for 3 decades, 30 years. And we've learned more about what our options are and how it works in this 1.5-hour meeting than in the last 29 years. At Stonebridge, our goal is one thing. When you come in, it's not about pressure. It's about giving the clarity to you that you need to understand where you're at so you be armed with the information to make educated decisions on what the next step should be for your retirement. I invite you to call that number and we can get started today.
Wonderful. Tim, Jeremy, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is there for you on the bottom of your screen, 866-256-7778, and that will get you scheduled for your very own complimentary written financial review. Or if you'd rather get connected online, we've got you covered. Simply grab your smartphone. You can scan that QR code there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and that will get you connected as well. Got a lot more to get into today regarding those of you who are working for the University of Nebraska and small college campus system throughout the state. Stay with us. We'll be back with more right after this.
My story started when I was in college. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew it was going to be in the financial industry. I took a lot of accounting and finance classes. I thought I'd probably work in like a bigger company and work my way through maybe the accounting department. But then when I was doing a internship the summer before my senior year, I walked into a business. I was trying to sell magazine ads. I don't know if I call it magazine ads, but basically ad space in the back of the UNK student handbook and planner, which was a difficult sell because, nobody uses pen and paper planners anymore, at least not college students. But I made my best pitch to some financial advisors. I happened to be Scott Noctegal that I met with that day. When I went for the close and tried to see if he was ready to sign up for some ad space, he said, yeah, no, I'm not interested in that, but it takes a lot of courage to have somebody to be willing to walk into a business, especially a business that really doesn't cater to your target audience, to put yourself out there in a way that the odds of you being successful are probably pretty low. That's the type of person we'd be looking for at our firm. Have you decided what you want to do? And I said, no, I really haven't, but I only want to work with finance because I like numbers, and math's always been my favorite subject, and working with kind of complex equations, almost like a puzzle. And so that's really where it all began.
Welcome back to the Retirement Compass. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Tim and Jeremy from Stonebridge Wealth Systems, and we're so glad you're joining us today. If you are just tuning in, we are having an important conversation on the key provisions of retirement plans for those of you who work throughout the university system and small college campus system here in the state of Nebraska. And before the break, Tim, you shared a very powerful story of a couple who came in and they said that they learned more in their one meeting with you than they had in the 29 years of multiple meetings that they had with their plan provider. So why do you feel there is such a shortfall in the amount of education on how these plans actually work?
I think it's a few different reasons, but the reality is this is a very specialized area. Like, retirement plan rules are complex, okay? The government wrote them. Of course they're complex, and they don't write them in a language that anybody understands. And so you need some kind of an interpreter, and that's really where we focus. We don't try to be all things to all people, We're not your hero stock pickers. We're not running a hedge fund. We're focused specifically on helping folks navigate to and through the retirement of their dreams. That's it, okay? But if you think about it this way, a lot of people out there, when they maybe see our show, they feel an urge. There's something pulling on them to call, right? To get a hold of us, because man, this is different than what I've heard in the past. They seem to know what they're talking about, and this pertains to me. But in the back of their head, they're like, but I already have an advisor, or I got my money, inside the 401A or whatever it is, and they handle that. They handle that. Well, I would say you probably have a doctor too, right? But if something was critically wrong and you knew it was a specific area that needed addressed, like a cardiac type situation, you probably wouldn't just go to your GP, right? You'd want to go to a specialist. Well, imagine if every time you went to the specialist, there was somebody different there and they didn't know who you were from the next guy. And you felt like there was no stability or consistency.
Yep.
Well, if you've been in these plans for more than a few years, you've probably had multiple different people who have been the representatives that have come and met with you if you can get a meeting. And again, that's a big if, because unfortunately, there's only so many meeting slots available, and depending on what resource level you're at, you may or may not get one.
Yep.
But if life is tough enough the way it is, it's unpredictable. So financial planning is inherently difficult. So finding some stability and consistency can really go a long ways to improving outcomes long term. And that's why we exist.
And thank you for adding that, because again, I think it can be frustrating for folks to be like, wait, I've worked in the system for all these years. Why am I not understanding this? And it's not your fault, right? There's reasons why it can be so confusing and complicated. So Jeremy, walk us through the second plan that our friends who are watching who work in higher education have access to when they're saving for retirement.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the 403B plan. It's purely voluntary. It is not mandatory. We do have a slide that we can pull up on this. It's plan number 2. So any faculty or staff can contribute. They can participate regardless of age, length of service. You can contribute either traditional pre-tax money or Roth after-tax dollars, which that can add a nice feature, especially if you're younger and want to save, you're going to be saving for a long time. Earlier, you asked Tim if the age 26 requirement excluded younger employees at the university from saving for retirement. The answer is technically no. They can contribute to this plan, but voluntarily. There is not a match.
Right.
And so that's how that 403B works.
Yeah, it's interesting because my husband and I have had that conversation, right? Because he has access to a 403B, and it's like, well, do we utilize this? But you don't get a match, so maybe we should max out my match, and look at other things, because he does have the pension and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So assuming that, so one of the questions that we always ask people is, if you're not getting a match, is this something that you should be doing? The answer is yes. I mean, if it's something that you can save for,
right,
and you can afford it, and you're maxing out in your example, you're maxing out yours,
right,
then yes, it would probably make sense to go ahead and do that.
Especially with that Roth component, if you can do that, right?
Yeah.
For building that tax-free bucket.
Yes.
Well, I know another place that folks often feel confused about are deferral limits, because some people think they can only defer up to a certain percentage of their pay. So what does the IRS, what do the IRS rules state about how much you can defer into these two plans, the 401A and the 403B?
Here's what you need to know. The $24,500 limit, for like the Section 402, Internal Revenue Code 402G, I think is what it is. That limit of $24,500, that's for elected deferrals. Well, the 401A, did I say that was elective?
It's mandatory.
It's mandatory, so that doesn't apply. That goes under a different section of the code. So what you can do with the 403B is you can actually do your mandatory Tier 1, Tier 2, plus the match in the 401A. You could also max out the 403B, the full 24.5, or if you're 50 or older, you get the extra 8,000, or if you're 60 through 63, you get the 11,250 extra. So this is the first thing that is a departure from what we are normally seeing. Most people are thinking, oh, I'm in a 401k, I've got one limit to worry about, and it's the 24.5, depending on my age. It's different here because these plans do not coordinate with one another, so you can do both simultaneously.
Right. So again, lots of options, and so that means that you can max both out, right? You just have to coordinate and plan for that. Okay, so Jeremy, then tell us about plan number 3.
So plan number 3 is the 457B, and it's a deferred compensation plan. We do have a slide on that as well. I'll pull that up, and you can look at that as we're kind of talking through this. It's only available after you've elected to defer the maximum amount you can to your 403B. And so this is the part that I think is often overlooked. The 457B doesn't aggregate with either the 401A or the 403B. So what we mean by that is you can technically, at the University of Nebraska as an employee, you can actually have all 3 plans simultaneously. So for a mandatory 401A contribution, you get that applicable match, plus the maxing out of the 403B, plus maxing out the 457. That's a massive amount of tax-deferred savings potential that you have, especially if you're over the age of 50, where you're getting those additional amounts added to that as well.
Well, and I know you guys want to walk through an example with real numbers. We should probably do that when we come back from the break. But what would you say to viewers who are watching who are like, okay, I need to figure out, what to put where and when and how much?
Well, we're talking about education, right? And, if you think back to when you were in school, there was times where you're taking a test where you're just like, man, I wish I would have studied a little bit harder, and been more prepared, especially in statistics. That class, oh my gosh, that was just the most difficult thing.
Having flashbacks and nightmares. But go ahead.
Yes. But imagine if you knew somebody that had the rule book. Now, I'm not talking about cheating, but maybe a tutor that you could go and hire that understood, that had already passed the class. They had already been through it dozens of times. They knew what the answers were supposed to be, and they could teach you how to get the proper answer for your unique financial situation. Well, I just kind of let the cat out of the bag. That's what we do for everyone who comes in and sees us. We've helped plenty of folks navigate these different types of plans, whether it's at UNK or UNL or UNO or any of these campuses, SEC, you name it. We have the understanding, the knowledge, the resources, the tools to help you navigate this safely. So you get to your destination intact and are able to focus on the things that matter to you. It starts with a phone call right there.
Wonderful. Tim, Jeremy, thank you so much. That number to call is 866-256-7778. Or again, if you'd rather connect online, simply scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. Don't go anywhere. We know that seeing a real life example can be really powerful, so stay with us. Tim and Jeremy are going to outline that for you when we come back.
I own a motel I was able to buy out of college. When I actually ended up buying the motel, I was leaving. I had just passed the life and health license, and I was gonna sell Medicare supplements and long-term care. I told the owner of the motel that, hey, I'm gonna be leaving. I was giving him a 6 months heads up that, hey, I'll train whoever you wanna bring in. He said, I'd actually rather sell you the motel than bring in a new manager because he never showed up. So he didn't have to do anything. It was kind of like an ATM for him. And so, when you own your own business, there's a lot of people that got to be paid. There's marketing that has to be done. There's a lot of different dynamics that go into running a motel. It actually taught me to think outside the box a little bit. And so I started looking around, what are other things I can do? Because I really liked helping people. I liked solving problems for them. And there's a big difference between selling something and actually finding solutions to problems. When you're thinking about personal finance and managing somebody's retirement for them, they've worked for 40 years saving all this money and now they're retiring. They're turning this over to you to take and run with it. So it's a big deal. I think we can always do stuff better. There's always room for improvement. And so I want to read as much as I can. I want to study as much as I can so that I can do a better job for my clients, which they're counting on me to get the job done for them.
Welcome back to today's conversation called Mission Possible, retiring from the university system here in Nebraska. For those of you who are watching, we know that this can impact 1 in 17 Nebraskans. Those of you that are working on university and college campuses throughout the state, we want you to be informed and empowered to make the best decisions possible regarding your retirement. So we've gone through a lot of the options. I know now what we want to do is walk through a concrete example with actual numbers. So Tim, take it away.
Let's give a visual for all the folks out there watching this thinking, okay, that's a lot of numbers and I'm starting to feel a little bit of woozy in the head because that's what numbers can do. So we're going to go through an example of a 50-year-old employee making $150,000 who's in tier 2. Now we start with the basic plan, right? And we've got what the employee contributes. They did tier 2, so they got 5.5% plus the 8, total of 13.5%. That's $20,250. Does it end there? No, it doesn't, because they have the 403B available. So then we add the 403B, it stacks on top. And so that's another 32,500 because they're age 50, so they get the catch up. So you see the 24,500 base plus the 8,000. So we're a combined annual savings of 52,750. That's pretty darn good. Now keep in mind, that 401A, that's all pre-tax, but that 403B, could that be Roth?
It could be.
Absolutely. Could be tax-free money, my stars. Look at that. And does the income limit apply to that? No, it doesn't because it's a 403B. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, now it's getting ridiculous because we got $85,250 that could potentially go into these tax-advantaged savings plans. That's power.
It is powerful. And if someone's in the ages of 60, 61, 62, 63, can they qualify for what's known as the super catch-up contributions for the 403B and the 457B plans as well?
Absolutely. Let's show it to them. Give the people what they want, We add that, and it's $91,750. Now, again, a huge chunk of that, all but $20,250, could be Roth. That's incredible.
And that just proves, too, for folks who feel like they got a later start in life of saving, right?
Let's get you caught up.
Right, and you might be in some of your highest earning years. This can be a great opportunity to do that. Okay, so we've walked through the 3 retirement plans that are available to University of Nebraska employees. Let's shift gears and talk about the TIAA, because I know that this catches people off guard. So talk about it, Jeremy. Explain what we're getting at here.
Yeah, so TIAA, you have 2 options really at the University of Nebraska level now. You have TIAA and Fidelity, but employees can allocate their retirement contributions between those 2 major providers, right? So TIAA is I guess I would say they're similar to Fidelity in the way that they invest money. They have investment options within inside of there, but it is still limited because it's TIA, right? So both are excellent companies. They have a wide range of investments. But a few years ago, this is where the university added in Fidelity, and the problem with a lot of these funds or a lot of these investment companies, they've added these life cycle funds.
These target date funds.
Yeah,
TDFs,
and so they're based off of your age, and that's the only thing that they look at. It's when you want to retire. It's not even your age. It's when do you want to retire. That's how they decide what fund you're going to go into.
And how the money is managed according to when you are planning to retire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Right. So we have these two options. What is unique about the balances that you see in TIA?
Yeah, I want to pull up one final slide, or a couple of final slides if we have time here, because TIA has a traditional balance and it's a guaranteed allocation. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for guarantees. There's advantages. We've listed them here. It's a volatility buffer. If you think back to some of the past shows we've done, the Ernst & Young study, the Blanchett-Finke study, Retirement Income Institute, that's great. But this is where it gets dangerous because people don't understand it. It's a dirty little secret about how this plan works. And that is that this is an illiquid balance. Anything you have in the traditional balance, it's not simply available whenever you want it. And there we go. That's the critical issue here, is that it has liquidity restrictions. A lot of people think that they can just pull the money out at retirement. And for our more conservative types of investors or clients that have come in from one of these campuses that are under that assumption, that have over-allocated to the traditional balance, this could be catastrophic because there's only a few ways. I don't have time to go through all of them. There's only a few ways that you can get your money out of there. It's either 10 payments over 9 years through what's called a transfer payout annuity, or you end up annuitizing it, which is an irrevocable decision. And now you have an income stream, but you don't have the liquidity, the flexibility, the optionality that you could have potentially had.
It, right? Yeah.
So what does that mean? What that means is for the folks watching out there, here's what I want you to do. If you have a balance in TIAA, log in there today. Do it now and find out, do I have money in the traditional balance? And if you do, if you want clarity on what that means for you and what your options are, your next step is to call the number at the bottom of your screen, and one of our experienced advisors will walk you through exactly what that means for you. But again, there's no pressure, just clarity.
Wonderful. Tim, Jeremy, thank you. And I hope you and the team of Stonebridge are ready, because I know every time we talk about this subject, there is a whole new influx of folks coming your way. So thank you so much. Again, we invite you to reach out today. You don't have to go it alone. The team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems would love to be able to help you navigate through this for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.